What's up, guys? This is Maxwell Media Inc. I'm your host, Sir Maxwell, and I'm not even gonna hold y'all. Let's get into the Will Chris smack thing. So, for you guys who have been living under a rock the last week and y'all have no internet connection, Will Smith slapped the fuck out of Chris Rock at the Oscars for talking about his wife Jada.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay. Okay.
I played the clip. Y'all saw the clip. Now, this is how I immediately feel about it. I honestly think that it's good. I think that Will did what he needed to do. I think Chris Rock, slap Chris Rock. I would have done it. Like, let's be real. We're gonna get into all of the topics that concern this, but let's be real. Like, I feel like we would all either do it or we would all want to do it. I feel like this idea that, oh no, and I do declare that I'm so above it all, and I would never do fisticuffs. And it's like, no. If you talk about my wife, if you talk about my partner like that, and you upset them like that, I'ma slap you. And it's like, even if you really actually wouldn't do it, you would think about it in your mind, in your imagination, you would go up and want to slap them. So why are we acting like Will Smith is this evil devil man because he went up and slapped Chris Rock? I just don't understand it. That's my immediate reaction. Now, I do feel like maybe he shouldn't have done that live, and maybe he shouldn't have gone on the stage and slapped him in front of everybody. Maybe he should have done it at the after party. I don't know, but still, I'm not mad about the slap. And it's like, let's get into my notes. Let's get into my notes, because lots of people have a lot of things to say, and I don't feel like all of it is really needed, to be honest. Okay? But I want to start this off by saying I may be a little biased because I do love the Smith family. I love Will Smith. Hancock is one of my favorite movies of all time. I like Jada. I like Willow. I'm a Willow Smith fan. Like transparent, so I can see right through, so like, I love me some Willow Smith. So, I like Jaden. Jaden is really hot. I like that other son that we don't talk about. So I like the Smith family. I do. So I'm a little biased, but I'm gonna try to be as fair as I think I can be in this video. But let's get on to the first thing. The first thing for me is that Will and Chris have a history. Like, Chris Rock has a history of talking about Jada and them at the Oscars. He just does. And from what I've heard, allegedly, there have been conversations behind closed doors about that. So I just feel like this was way more than Chris getting slapped over one joke he made. This has been a systemic problem, number one. Number two, I think that since the whole entanglement situation happened, a lot of people feel like Will Smith is a punk. A lot of people feel like Will Smith is emasculated and he's not a man, and yada, yada, yada. A lot of the responses are, so you let somebody fuck your wife, but you don't let somebody disrespect your wife? Like, what logic does that make? So a lot of people are just seeing Will as a punk. So I feel like all of that, the last 2 years of just the insults and just over and over and over again, the jokes, I just feel like this is way more than just about Chris. I feel like Chris was honestly the perfect target. Like, Chris, got the slap that the internet has been earning from him for the last 2 years. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a lot of pent up ego and frustration. and it just went out at Chris. And I think it's something he regrets, and I think it's something, he's human. He had a moment, But Will and Chris definitely have a history. Now, whether he's right or wrong, again, I said earlier, I'm not mad about it, but, in a perfect world, in a perfect society, we don't hit people because they say things we don't like. However, I feel like people who are broadcasting that as like the main thing, like, y'all are oversimplifying it. Y'all know it's not that simple. Y'all know it's not that simple. And I know a lot of people are on here like, well, it's just jokes and da-da-da-da. Y'all really act like comedians are these special snowflakes, these angels sent from heaven, and they can say whatever they want because they're comedians and it's jokes and it's their job. It was not Chris Rock's job to talk about Jada Pinkett Smith's hair. It was not his fucking job. That was ad-libbed. That wasn't even in the approved script. So this is just him going off, picking on Jada Pinkett Smith for whatever weird reason. And a lot of people on Twitter was talking about, when you're a black person in a room of mostly white people or mostly just non-black people, out of all the people you could go to pick on, why are you picking on Jada Pinkett? And it's such a lazy read to like, oh, you were in a green dress, your GI and your ball, your GI Jane. Like, what? Like, I don't even think the joke was good. So like, I just feel like, what was the reason for it? Why was it necessary? Like, and I get the perspective of, oh, the joke wasn't a big deal. He doesn't know she has alopecia, yada, yada, yada. However, again, I don't think it was just about the joke. I think it was about, one, their former history, and two, all of the pent-up rage and frustration he's felt about this entanglement situation for the last 2 years. So, yeah. And I know a lot of people are wanting to have the conversation of, is violence the answer? I personally don't feel like violence is never, ever, 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 ever the answer. I don't. However, Kim Foster makes a really, really good point about violence that I'm going to put in here.
Right? Like, one thing that I have never, this is Kimberly going off on a little tangent right now. This is just a Kimberly little political tangent right now. An issue that I have always had with the way that I've seen some people who share my kind of politics, right? Left-leaning politics, with the nonchalance that they talk about violence is, we talk about violence like it magically solves everything. Like you beat somebody's ass and everything is resolved and people just go back to their lives. No, violence is not the end. Violence is the beginning. Violence is then the beginning of your interactions with the carceral state. Violence is then the beginning of whoever's interactions with the racist, sexist medical system when they're trying to get treatment or when they're trying to seek mental health care. People who witness violence are scarred. Like, I've never understood when people just talk about violence like it's this, okay, we're done. I'm not 100% anti-violence. I'm not. I've become more into sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But it's not nothing. And it's not shit that people should just engage in with no thought.
I really also want to look at it from a different angle. And another angle I want to look at it from is the privilege. Because a lot of people are sort of making this point, and that point, it's a point that I agree with. Will Smith knew he could get away with this because he's Will Smith. I don't think a regular schmegular man would have made it to the Oscar stage. And like, as soon as he was walking up, security would have taken him away. But since he's Will Smith, he can go and he can slap the fuck out of somebody and nothing can really happen to him like that. And I think, I don't hold that against Will, but I do think that is something we have to acknowledge. Like the privilege in that. Like, wow, like you can just go up, slap somebody in front of millions of people and just sort of go home. And regular schmegular black people couldn't do that. And, I think it's something to acknowledge, because I don't really think it's not that doesn't influence whether I think it was right or wrong, because at the end of the day, I know Will is a celebrity, but he's also a man. You know, and I don't mean a man to like, ooh, men do what men do, but I say a man just in the sense of he's human, he's a person, you know? And I feel like there's privilege in what he did, but also there's a human experience that we could all sort of relate to, if that makes any sense, you know? But I also think another element of the people who are upset with Will that I do agree with is it took away from everybody else's night. Questlove, another black man, also won an Oscar, and nobody's talking about it. You know, another black man produced the Oscars this year. Like, other people won awards, other people had accolades. And, you know, Beyonce had a great fucking performance of Be Alive, which was the song from the soundtrack of the King Richard movie that Will Smith won an Oscar from. Will Smith also took away from his own Oscar win because him doing that, like, nobody's talking about the fact that about the King Richard movie and the fact that he won his first Oscar ever. We're talking about the slap. So I do think it was a mistake that he did that in front of so many people. I do. Now, let's talk about the most interesting element for me, the protect black women angle of it. I do and I don't feel like it is. I'm black, but I'm not a black woman. So I cannot say, hey, this is protecting black women, or hey, this isn't protecting black women. I can just give you the perspectives and give you the one that I tend to agree with the most. And I definitely understand both sides of it, because on one hand, it's like black women are always getting shit on, black women are always getting joked on, black men are always trying to degrade black women, embarrass black women, humiliate black women, and it felt so good to see this black man defending his black wife and slapping the fuck out of Chris Rock. It felt good, and yes, protect black women. And I also get the other side of, well, does Will Smith slapping Chris Rock really protect me? Like, I don't like black women being like, I don't feel any more protected in society because Will Smith slapped the fuck out of Chris Rock. Like, you know, I get that. I really, 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 really get that. I tend to be in the former category, just because I think it's a human experience we all can relate to, and I feel like if you can't relate to it, you're white and a liar. You're white and or a liar if you cannot relate to the experience of, you know, protecting the person you love when they're hurt. Because a lot of people are talking about Jada's reaction and how, you know, Jada rolled her eyes or whatever, but people are saying Will laughed. I don't think Will laughing takes away from the thing, you know, because, like, have y'all ever been like in a situation and, you know, someone says something, you like, oh, okay, bitch, and then slap, you know, or do whatever you're gonna do. So I feel like, you know, it was that, or it could have been that he was laughing until he saw that Jada was upset, and he was like, oh nah, you don't upset my wife, I gotta beat your ass. So, you know, there's that element to it. I feel like it just, for black people, it feels good. It feels good to see when a black woman is disrespected, to have a black man come up and pop him. Now, another element to the whole protect black women angle of it is, what does protection look like? I think within our community, when I say our community, I mean black people, I think it is a good conversation to have of protect black women, but what does the protection look like? How do we want to be protected? And is the protection we want rooted in misogyny? Is it rooted in patriarchy? Because I'm not gonna lie, even though it felt good to watch Will Smith slap the fuck out of Chris Rock, it also was like, okay, but there is this chauvinistic element of, I'm a man, I'ma prove I'm a man, you disrespected my woman, my wife, da-da-da-da-da, you know, because a lot of women do, like, listen, a lot of women was coming to me being like, oh, that was hot, that was sexy, well, I'm wet, yada, yada, yada. Like, even me, I'm like, ooh, like, that's attractive. But, you know, I also know a lot of women that are like, okay, even though I like the fantasy of a man defending me or whatever, like if I'm at the mall and a guy is disrespectful or says something to me, I kind of don't want my boyfriend to get into a big fight with him. I don't. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's just a lot of drama. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable, and I think that element is also valid for I please give me feedback in the comments, Black women. I really, honestly, on this video, I really only want to hear from Black people, specifically Black women. Like, Black men, y'all can comment too. Like, I'm a Black man, obviously. But, like, white people, I don't really need y'all opinion too much. Y'all can leave a comment, white people, but y'all can't comment too much. Because y'all just doing a lot right now. And I'm going to get to y'all in a minute. But specifically with the protecting Black women thing, I think that I almost feel like it has to be individualized. Like, if for you, like, what does protection look like for you? I think when we're talking about in this specific instance, I feel like there is no universal way to protect Black women, because some Black women think that's great and they want to be protected in that way that will protect Jada. But for some people, for some Black women, that puts them in more, from their perspective, that puts them in more danger, because now you're putting me in the position where if things go rough, I gotta bail you out of jail, or I gotta, I gotta defend you physically, or if you get crunk at the job and you lose your job because you fighting niggas over me, then I got now who is gonna support us, yada yada yada. Like, I definitely get both sides of this is protecting Black women versus this is not protecting Black women. Yeah, for sure. What else was on my little list to talk about? Yeah, I feel like it's time to talk about the Will Smith side of things, because there's the Will Smith side, there's the Jada Pinkett side, and there's the Chris Rock side. I'm going to start with the Will Smith side. But before I explain the Will Smith side, I have to explain the entanglement for you guys who do not know. So it's kind of like pretty openly talked about. It was sort of an open secret for decades that Will and Jada had an open marriage.
From there, you and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided...
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though. Marriages have that.
Yeah, we basically, we broke up.
We decided that we were going to separate for a period of time, and you go figure out how to make yourself happy, and I'll figure out how to make myself happy.
Well, at that particular point in time, it was indefinite.
Yeah, I really felt like we could be over. We
were over.
And then what did you do, Jada?
Well, I think from there, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement with August.
I launched into an interaction with August. What do you feel like you were looking for?
I just wanted to feel good. It had been so long since I felt good. Yeah. And it was really a joy to just help heal somebody.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with my codependency, which is another thing that I had to learn to break in this cycle. Just that idea of needing to fix and being drawn to people that need help, whether it's your health or whether it's your addictions. There's something about that childhood trauma that feels as though it can be fixed through fixing people versus fixing me.
And Jada and Will bring themselves to the Red Table. Red Table Talk is Jada's show. And basically she said, there was an entanglement. And I feel like she was trying to say that because she didn't want to say relationship event. Like, she didn't want to use like a word that had a negative context. So she used the word entanglement. And ever since then, baby, we just been running with it, using all the entanglement memes. Like, Will Smith cannot get, ooh, that word will forever just haunt his fucking nightmares. And, like, literally, it's to the point where if you go on Will Smith's comments on Instagram and you say entanglement, baby, you blocked for life. You are blocked for life. And during that interview or conversation, whatever you want to call it, Will was very, like, visibly, like, you could look at him and he looks upset. And I think he just looks upset because, not because he's mad at Jada, but because he is in a situation where he has to explain something very vulnerable, explain something very, something private he doesn't want to talk about. But now, since y'all on his neck, because August Alsina blew up his spot, y'all have to talk about it. And I just feel like him and Jada have both bear the brunt of this in different ways. Because, like I said earlier, a lot of people see Will Smith as a bitch. They see him as a beta male. They see him as basically a cuck, somebody who is just lame and letting their woman walk over them. And to me, that's just sexism. Because a lot of people feel like, even though Will said she didn't cheat on me, it was an open situation. We were done at the time. Even though Will has said all that, people are still running with this idea that Jada is this cheating bitch, and she cheated on Will, and she did all this shit to Will, and Will is a dumb bitch for taking her back, and yada yada yada. Like, after basically being emasculated so publicly by the internet for 2 years, I just feel like all the pressure got to him, and he made a mistake, and he did something that he regretted. And I feel like the public turning on Will Smith so viciously, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. I'm very, 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 very much concerned. Kim Foster also made this tweet that I'm going to read, and it said, "No one except maybe Tom Cruise has more carefully crafted their public image than Will Smith, and the whites turned him into a black brute overnight. It's quite remarkable." And I agree. I completely agree. Like, people are really acting like Will Smith is this monster. He's this vicious man, yada, yada, yada. And I was watching coverage of the slap, and on this, I'm not going to call them out, but I was watching this online platform. It's a progressive platform. And basically, one of the hosts, and because no black people were involved in this conversation, but one of the hosts, who is Middle Eastern, I think, he said that because Chris Rock and Will Smith are black, thank God race isn't a factor in this. I disagree. I think race is completely a factor in this. The fact that it's 2 black men makes it racial to me, because 2 black men fighting on stage, I'm sorry, like, just virtue of our blackness, unfortunately, and not just a product of white supremacy. It is about race. It is completely about race. It's about race and culture and where we come from and how we are perceived by, white media in general. And I think that I feel like a lot of white people really saw Will Smith as a white black person, like, oh, you're black, but you're not black like that, And I feel like him going against that, people really people want to meme on the whole Fresh Prince thing, on the whole in West Philadelphia, born and raised. Like, people really love to meme about that, but no, like, he's from West Philly. Like, he grew up in, like, people. I'm just gonna say it. Will Smith was a hood nigga. Will Smith was a hood nigga. He was. And then he got famous, he got money, and he just sort of grew up into, fame. And now Will Smith and Jada are basically 2 hit people who grew into fame, and now they're living this great lifestyle, and their kids don't have to be in the same situations they were when they were growing up. And I think that's beautiful, and I think that's great. But I think a lot of people be forgetting where Will Smith and Jada came from. Like, Jada from Baltimore, okay? Like, people really be forgetting where they come from. And I think that I'm not saying that people need to see Will Smith as a thug. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is people need to remember that Will Smith comes from circumstance, and if something pops off, Will Smith is not gonna just be like, oh, well, yeah. And maybe you can see that's me promoting violence, but to me, it's just sort of the truth. I don't know what to say. Like, I just feel like Will Smith is not the punk y'all think he is. Like, Will Smith isn't gonna let you just get over on him to an extent. Now, I do think the conversation of, oh, well, you need to control yourself, and we can't just hit people because they say things we don't like, and we need to live in a civilized society, and that is assault. Sure, of course, I agree with that. I don't think this situation calls for the cancellation of Will Smith. I don't. I feel like people talking about he needs to get that Oscar back are ridiculous. I feel like people thinking that he needs to have criminal charges, ridiculous. It's too much. It's too much for me. I don't like it. I also don't like how we're talking about Jada. Let's talk about Jada. So this is what I will say about Jada. This is the only thing about that entanglement situation that I don't like. I don't like that when she described him as someone, as a young man needing guidance. And at least that's what I remember. I remember her describing him as a young man needing guidance. And I remember that she said that he was low-key like a part of the family, and he was also Jaden's friend. And I just feel like to fuck him and have a relationship with him and do all of that and just sort of break his heart like that. And when I say break his heart, I don't mean like she intentionally like manipulated him, but I do think there was a little bit of like a power imbalance between them. And I do think that, there were feelings that caught up and he got hurt. And side eye, very much giving Jada the side eye with that. And I feel like if Jada was a man, and Jada was a man who had a relationship outside of her marriage with a young girl who was his son's friend, or his daughter's friend, someone he met through his daughter, I think we would be giving it the side eye more than we're giving it to Jada. So I just feel like, yeah, it's very much, it's getting weird. But outside of that, I feel like they're in an open relationship. They can do whatever they want. It's fine. As long as everyone knows what they're doing, it's okay. But people are really making it like Jada is just... Like, people really wanted it to be like Will was cheating on Jada and Jada was just supposed to take it. And as a woman and as a black woman, like, people would have preferred that situation. But since Jada is a woman, and from their perspective, Jada is the one that's going out, and Jada is the one that is sleeping on all these men, according to their minds, they feel like Jada is this whore, and that Jada is the problem, and that Jada is the reason why Will was mad, and when Jada was the reason why Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, because Jada wanted it, and it's all Jada's fault, and Jada's ruining his legacy, and Jada's embarrassing him, and Jada hurt him, and she cheated on him, and yada yada yada. Like, people are really like, oh, Will, you shouldn't have slapped Chris Rock, you should have slapped Jada. Girl, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? Like, really? I just feel like Jada is the person who comes out of this the most unfairly judged. Because I do think Jada deserves some critique. I don't think the critique is having a relationship structure that's unconventional. And also, we're not talking about that. Like, people will talk shit about Will and Jada and then justify it by using the entanglement situation. And people also be forgetting that Will Smith was banging out Margot Robbie, had a whole relationship with Margot Robbie, allegedly, I guess. And the only difference is Margot Robbie ain't run her motherfucking mouth, because I've seen him running his mouth. So that's the only difference there. And that's just true tea. I really just don't. I don't like how blown out of proportion this is. Cat Black made a really good tweet. Cat Black said, I understand why the Will Smith and Chris Rock stuff was so shocking to people, but I'm really not understanding why people are obsessing over this for days and days on end. We've seen more shocking things happen, and we've spent less time talking about it. I agree. Because I just feel like, especially if you are from the hood or you're from an area where there's high violence, as open-handed slap to us, and when I say us, I mean black people, like, that's nothing. That's nothing. I don't know. It just feels like this whole, like, he got up there and assaulted him. Like, I guess, yeah, sure, technically it was an assault, but, like, is it, like, not an assault the way that we think of it, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't like the way that it's being characterized. I really, 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 really don't. Before I fully get into white people just being a mess, let's talk about Chris Rock and the Chris Rock angle of it. I think that, on one hand, I get it. Chris Rock is a comedian, and Chris Rock is a person who made a joke, and, you know, people feel like, oh, he made a joke, he was doing his job, he walks up, he gets assaulted, he gets slapped, and now everyone hates him for it, and they said it's his fault that he got slapped. And I get that. I get how that can seem unfair. I do. I really, 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 really do. I want to be fair here. However, we don't care. A lot of us don't give a fuck, because it just feels like you went out of your way to attack a black woman for no reason, and we're tired. We care more about that than we do Chris Rock being embarrassed. Because I'm sure he was embarrassed. I can sympathize. I'm sure he was embarrassed. He talked about how her hair loss, it was painful for her, and how she had to accept her image and yada, 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 from someone who made a movie or a documentary called Good Hair. Like, we don't understand what that was about. We just don't get it. We don't understand. So a lot of us really don't have no sympathy or understanding for Chris Rock. We just don't. We don't. And I know that I guess he's saying some shit. Like, he said, like, I'm still processing. Like, Chris Rock is not trying to destroy Will Smith. Chris Rock is not slandering Will Smith. White people are using Will Smith. I'm sorry. White people are using Chris Rock. White people are using Chris Rock to demonize Will Smith, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. The Zoe Kravitz thing, I heard about that Zoe Kravitz thing. Child, Twitter was waiting. So, like, essentially Zoe Kravitz denounced Will Smith or whatever, and then people brought up the receipts of her trying to fuck on a 14-year-old Jaden. Let me take that back. Let me not. It wasn't that. She was talking about Jaden, and she was saying, like, oh, he's so nice, and he got swag, and yada, 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 and I'm gonna have to wait till he's 18, and yada, 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 yikes. And I'm just like, girl, that's weird. It's very, very much weird. Now, I think Jaden Smith is hot. I've always been into Jaden Smith, but Jaden Smith is like 2 to 3 years older than me. So I think I'm 21. I think he's 23, 24. So and Chris and all of them, and they just don't get the cultural context. Like, hood culture, people who grew up in hood culture, like, this means nothing. This means nothing to people who grew up in hood culture. This means nothing to people who have been shot, who have gotten beat up, like, who have seen violence. Like, America is violence. Like, people who've seen actual, like, real violence in their lives, have experienced trauma. It's like, this slap really don't mean shit to them. It really, really don't. It really, 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 really don't. And I'm tired. I'm tired of white people giving information on things that they don't have the range to discuss. Personally, I just feel like when white people are talking about the situation, good or bad. I just feel like mind your fucking business. Mind your business. Stay in your lane. Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear no white person's opinion about Will Smith. I don't. Because, especially with the using Chris Rock thing, because honestly and truly, before the anywho, I kind of wanted to briefly talk about the queer perspective of this for a minute, because this relates back to the whole violence never being an answer thing. Specifically in Black hood communities, a lot of Black queer people, a lot of Black trans people, I watched Diamond Styles live about this, and Diamond Styles talked about how, when she was young and people were bullying her, people picking on her, people trying to fight her, sometimes she had to pop a motherfucker for them to leave her alone. Specifically Black trans women, people really be trying to comfort them physically. And sometimes it's physically, sometimes it's just talking. But sometimes, you have to, pop a motherfucker to leave you alone. Like, I'm sorry, that's just how it be. And I just feel like people who don't understand that cultural context, it's very hard for them to get it. Because it's like, oh my God, I do declare, I would never appropriate to do the fisticuffs. But it's like, I don't feel like they get it. It's frustrating. Also, I wanted to make this comment, and some of y'all are gonna be mad at me that I'm making this comment, but let's be real. Will and Jada are getting the support from Black people because it's Black heterosexuality, it's Black cisheads. Because let's be honest, if this was Billy Porter and Billy Porter got on stage and slapped the fuck out of Chris Rock and said, "Keep my husband's name out your fucking mouth," oh bitch, it would be, it's just jokes and everybody can have their opinion and y'all don't have to, everybody don't have to like y'all, yada yada yada, and y'all can't force that gay shit on anybody. That's literally what it would be. It like, ain't nobody finna go up like that for Billy Porter and his white husband. No ma'am, no jam. So I just wanted to call that out. I'm gonna give that to you. Y'all can sit with it, but and then the last thing I'm gonna talk about is the hyperbolization, the hyperbolic nature of the situation, the hyperbolization of the situation. I feel like people really want to have this situation where it's either Will Smith is a great person or he's an evil person. Chris Rock is either the worst person to ever do it, or he's a poor innocent little victim. I just feel like it's neither of those. It's a very complicated, messy situation, and I think we need to have empathy for everybody involved. And yes, even Chris Rock a little bit. But for the most part, Will and Jada. And that's who we care about at the end of the day. That's who I'm worried about. I'm not really worried about Chris Rock. And call me immature, call me XYZ, but I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about him. I don't think Will Savior, yikes. I don't think Will Smith is the savior of Black women, and he's like the most perfect champion, because I do think a lot of it was coming from ego, and a lot of it was coming from, him trying to prove his manhood. But I also think he genuinely just loves his wife, and he doesn't want y'all to disrespect his wife. I don't know what's so fucking hard for y'all to understand about keeping his wife's name out your fucking mouth. I don't know what's so hard about that. I don't know why we can't just leave Black women's hair alone. I don't know why we can't learn that talking about Black women's hair is inappropriate. Talking about Black people's hair is inappropriate in general. Like, why can't we just learn that lesson? Why do comedians feel like they are just entitled to say whatever the fuck they want because they're comedians? Just those are the questions I have. Why do white people feel like feel the need to insert themselves in Black business that doesn't concern them? I think there are conversations that we can have in here about, protecting Black women. What does that look like? Is violence always the answer? Yada yada yada. Sure, but That's the conversation. I feel that's an in-house conversation. I don't want white people's opinions on it, and that's pretty much it. But anywho, that's it.